Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
KHJ Los Angeles.
Portions of the day's programming are reproduced by means of electrical transcriptions or tape recordings.
And we're back. 87 Sports Fans Live. Buying the world of Coke. It's 87 Sports, the sports world of Coke, that is.
Buying the world of Coke.
If you're not a Mad Men fan, then you just didn't get that. But that is your loss, trust me. I am Keith Grieve from 87sportsfans.com, and I am joined by my illustrious co-host, Mr. Steven Taylor. How are you, sir?
Hi, man. Good. It's good to be back.
Good to be back. +1. New dad, Mr. Steve Taylor. How's the sleep cycle going?
Honestly, knock on wood, phenomenal.
Oh,
unbelievably phenomenal. Let's just say we put him down for his first stretch at 7 o'clock, and he's still sleeping.
Oh, nice.
We're averaging about 3-hour stretches with about a half hour of feeding. So the wife and I are getting 6-7 hours of sleep every night.
That's phenomenal. You really should thank your lucky stars for that one.
He sleeps like a champ. Ever since he really got a whole hand on the breastfeeding thing. Oh my God, he's been milk coma every time.
Nice.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's really cool.
The only advice I have for new parents from based on my experience, because I think advice is the worst thing that you could give somebody, because we're all figuring it out as we go along, and anybody that tells you differently is full of crap. But the only advice is that one day that baby will just cry and cry and cry, and you will not be able to figure out what the hell is going on with it, and it's just that he's more hungry. He just wants more food. It's a growth spurt. But he will scream bloody murder, and you will do everything that you know, every trick that you know, and nothing will work, and just give him food. That's all.
Oh, I'm good at that.
I remember with my firstborn that it was just like, oh my God, she's dying or something. There's something bad going on with her. Oh my God. Oh no, she's just hungry. Just hit a growth spurt. It's all good. After that, I was a pro. That day, though.
Oh, you were a pro. Huh?
That day was not my finest moment, though. Trying to figure out what the hell was wrong with her was not my finest moment at all.
Yeah. Well, that's the good thing about the internet.
Yeah.
Is any question I have, I'll type in, hey, this is what's going on. And I have 15 different sites that pop up with doctors and other parents who've had the same thing. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So it does give parents a unfair advantage these days over our predecessors. That's for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, so let's we got an action-packed show for you, folks. We're going to talk NBA playoffs first, and we'll go through, after the first break, we'll go through the Major League Baseball scoreboard, comment on what's going on tonight, and then at the top of the second hour, Jim Sarantias from thefantasygreek.com will join us, first time in a long time, really, and we'll be talking Arizona Cardinals and Atlanta Falcons. Off-season outlooks, our opinions on what they've done in the off-season. So don't change the channel, because this will be from start to finish an amazing show. I assure you that. All right, so let's talk NBA playoffs. So we have our conference finals set. We have the Hawks and the Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference, and the Warriors and the Rockets in the Western Conference. So let's start in the Eastern Conference. Are we ready for the Hawks to be good, Steve? I mean,
I think we are. I think that it's a shame they're not getting the recognition. I mean, they were the number one seed out of the East this year.
Right.
And they're not getting any recognition. Like, everyone's shocked that they're at this point. So I think everyone is taken aback by the fact that there isn't that big name, that household name that everyone knows. I mean, even though I don't know if you would necessarily, in today's day and age, consider Harden and Curry to non-basketball fans as a household name yet. Maybe Curry, because he's making a lot of commercials. But Atlanta, they really have nobody. but they are well balanced, well coached, just overall young, fast, solid team. It's like if the San Antonio Spurs were 50 years younger, they would be the Atlanta Hawks.
The Hawks don't have a single player outside of Jeff Teague in the assist category in the top 5 of any of the playoff categories, like the six major statistical categories. They don't have a single player leading in any of that, except for Jeff Teague, 5th in assists at 7.4. I mean, it really is the epitome of team basketball, no-name basketball, faceless basketball, if you will.
I mean, and of course they're going against everyone's favorite from the East, Cleveland, with LeBron, but you have LeBron who's, vastly inconsistent. I don't think anyone's going to ever argue that. You have Kyrie Irving who's coming off of injuries. He's played through them as best he can, but he's still pretty banged up. You have no Kevin Love. So you have a team that, when you have to rely on J.R. Smith to bring it every night, it can be problematic.
Do you think? Yeah, and Kyrie Irving's banged up, and so now it's on LeBron and company. I mean, like, looking back now, how big was that J.R. Smith and Iman Shumpert trade? I mean,
it's huge.
Saved him, and we can't forget Timothy Mozgov. I have a problem saying the F in that first name, by the way.
Timothy, yeah.
I always want to say Timothy, but it's Timothy Mozgov. Those mid-season acquisitions, I mean, you can make an argument it saved Cleveland's season, really.
They're absolutely huge. What I'm interested to see is, there's going to be a much bigger magnifying glass over this team, right? The farther they advance, being Cleveland, all the issues they have with the head coach. Very curious to see, if he makes a wrong call, or if he, like at the end of that series with Chicago, he almost blew the game by trying to call a timeout they didn't have, which would have lost it for him.
Right.
And if it wasn't for, was it Tyronn Lue, the assistant coach, who jumped up and grabbed him and pretty much said, "Get off the floor, you idiot." So, it's going to be interesting to see. He's had daggers thrown at him all season because of, him not getting along with the players and whatnot. So I'm just very curious to see what's going to happen in this postseason when there's more of a focus on his play calling and how the team gels together.
It's just the whole fact that Tyronn Lue was the one that saved the day just kills me, because before that day, his previous biggest contribution to NBA playoff folklore was playing Allen Iverson in practice for the Lakers when they faced the Sixers in the finals. He was the one that on the scout team that mimicked Allen Iverson.
Yeah,
that was his previously biggest contribution. But hey, good for him. No, but you bring up some valid points there, and whenever there's an injury like the one to Kevin Love, it makes me like angry as a fan, because we don't get to see Cleveland at full strength. They're still winning. Tip your cap, they're winning, but we don't really know what this Cavaliers team is really like, because we don't see them at full strength. And in the playoffs, that's a real loss to us as fans, I think. Am I crazy? I don't know.
Oh, no, I agree with you. But I guess the only positive out of this goes to LeBron James. If he could find a way with, up and down season, the rough start they had, not getting along with Kevin Love, all the trade talks, and then the big mid-season trade, like you said, getting a team to gel quickly with these new components, getting into the conference finals after beating a Chicago team that should have won that series. There's no reason why Cleveland should have beat Chicago in that series, the way that Chicago was playing.
Right.
And then you go to, they have a very good chance of beating an Atlanta Hawks team that's young and very good, but also extremely inexperienced. If LeBron can, A, take them to the finals, and B, find a way to win, this more than solidifies his legacy. It puts him in a much different category. He would definitely be in the Jordan, Magic, Bird category.
Is it enough? Is it enough for this Cavaliers team to make it to the finals?
I would say yes with the injury to Kevin Love. If they were full strength, no, they would have to win. But with Love being injured, I think just making it to the finals, and I should say making it to the finals and being competitive. If they make it to the finals and get swept, that's a different story. If they make it to the finals and it's a competitive series and they leave everything on the floor, I think it's a victory for them.
Tristan Thompson.
Because of the season they had, because of being the first year with all these players playing together, with the injury to one of the best players in the NBA, Kevin Love. Because regardless of the issues he's had with the team, you're still a double-double guy, and you can't take anything for granted when you have a guy like that on your team.
Right. Love now underwent successful surgery on Wednesday and a 4 to 6 month recovery time, so obviously there's no chance of him coming back. But Tristan Thompson has stepped up huge for Cleveland. And there's a couple of stats, or one stat that I think really glares at why this might actually play into Atlanta's favor. Okay, you ready for this?
Ready. I know Mr. Stats. I'm ready.
I know. I'm a geek when it comes to this. Everybody knows this. But when you look at pace, okay, that's the number of possessions that the team uses per game. Cleveland is dead last in the number of possessions per game. So what does that tell me? That tells me that they're grinding out games. They're slowing games down. They're using as much of the shot clock as possible. The proverbial half-court team. Okay, Atlanta is sixth. They're not lighting the world on fire. They're by no means a run-and-gun team. But Cleveland is that dead last. And the one thing Atlanta does decently is play defense. Now, they don't have anybody that can match up with LeBron. I don't feel. LeBron is in a world unto himself in this game. Defending LeBron will be a challenge for the Atlanta Hawks. But if Cleveland is going to try to slow this game down and try to limit the amount of possessions, that may not necessarily play in their favor. What do you think?
Well, it depends on – I think a lot of it depends on the health of Irving. If Kyrie Irving is healthy enough to lead fast breaks, then I think speeding up the game benefits them. But if he is still hobbled, they have the three-point shooting. They have the low post play now. And, you have that wild card in LeBron who can shoot a three. He can shoot anywhere from the three-point line to the basket at a high percentage. And he's a very good half-court player. I mean, he's great on the break, but he's a very good half-court player. I mean, when he's so strong, he could pretty much back anyone down from any position. So, I mean, it really is going to depend on Kyrie Irving, I believe.
Yeah, he says he's going to be ready to go for game one. So
of course he is.
We will see. The two teams, as far as defensive efficiency, are pretty even. So this game, if this gets down to a game 7, I'm not ready to say that that's my prediction, but if this series gets to a game 7,
I think Atlanta wins in 7 games.
They're that kind of team, that kind of scrappy team that, if J.R. Smith goes cold and Shumpert doesn't show up and Thompson doesn't show up and what's the other guy, Deladova, he doesn't. If all of these guys all of a sudden shrink, Matthew Dellavedova. That's a handful to say. If all of these guys shrink suddenly on this grand stage, which I'm not saying they will, but if they do, that totally plays in Atlanta's hands. So I asked you at the beginning of the segment, are we ready for Atlanta to be good? Are we ready for the Atlanta Hawks to be in the finals, to be the best team in the Eastern Conference? I mean, really?
I'm ready for them as a team. I still don't think their fans deserve it. I know there have been more support in these playoffs, but they still have the worst fans in professional sports, the Atlanta Hawks basketball team.
See, Laker fans show up late, but at least they're passionate. Atlanta Hawks fans don't even show up. No.
And so that's the only – but, I mean, to me, if it came down to a Game 7, it's in Atlanta. You're going to have – regardless of how Irving is now, if he goes through a Game 7, he's going to be in rough shape at the end of it. LeBron, he's in his 30s now. He's probably going to have to carry most of the load, so he's going to be in rough shape. I do not trust J.R. Smith and his shooting inconsistencies. So if you have a Game 7 with a young Hawks team in Atlanta, man, I'm sorry. It would take a record-breaking performance by LeBron James to win that game. Similar to what he did against the Pistons all those years ago. when he was in Cleveland the first time around. It would have to be a game similar to that where he just takes over and there's nothing you can do about it. But I don't know if he has that in him anymore.
I think he does. I can see that happening. This is LeBron's stage now. I mean, regardless. I mean, even if Irving is talking the talk as far as having a saying all the right things. Oh, I'm going to be at 100%. He's not going to be. He can't be. In any athlete, and you and I are kind of sensitive to this, but any athlete that is trying to push themselves after an ankle injury, it's more upstairs than anything. As far as what you have to have confidence in that ankle to push off, and be the player that you are really capable of.
Well, I mean, look at Derrick Rose.
No,
I mean, how psychologically he was shot for an entire season. So, I mean, I don't think it'll be to that level of being a psychotic crybaby. Oh, did I say that out loud? I'm sorry. But I just, I think it'll be it's going to be interesting.
So what's your prediction now? Eastern Conference.
I think. Oh my God. I think Atlanta in 7. I think it's going to go to 7, and I think that scenario is going to play out where Cleveland is going to have to go hobbling into Atlanta for Game 7, and they're going to get run out of the court.
I look at Atlanta and I look at how they really struggled to beat Washington. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, if Pierce's shot counts, it's a different story. If Horford is not in the right place at the right time for an offensive rebound in Game 6, it's a different story. I think that they're a good team. There's somebody that NBA fans should be rooting for, the ultimate underdog, the faceless franchise, if you will. But I think Cavaliers in 6.
See, though, I look at that series against Washington. Sometimes you have these young teams who don't have a lot of experience. They need a game like that to give them the confidence. You look at that series, it was a struggle, but they won. They found a way to win, and to me, that has them riding on an unbelievable high going into this next series.
I'll give you that. I shall give you that.
Yeah.
If you're listening live and you want to join the discussion, 585-633-7487, 585-633-7487. And we will take your calls as they come. All right, so let's head out west now. The Houston Rockets and the Golden State Warriors. You and I both were on the James Harden camp as far as MVPs, right?
Mm-hmm. I stick by that too. I know he had a rough series, but I stick by that. As much as I like Curry and think he's a great shot, I still think Harden did more with less during this season, and I think he deserved it more.
Yeah, with the injuries in Houston, there was much more of a burden placed on James Harden.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But here we are now, head-to-head. Obviously, the Warriors are the offensive juggernaut, if you will. The Rockets, seem to get some hot shooting from Trevor Ariza the last series. When you look at this series, what really jumps out to you as far as Houston and Golden State?
The big thing that jumps out at me is Dwight Howard needs to have a good series. I think out of everyone on the floor, he is the one person that Golden State is going to have a hard time matching up against if he's on his game. But once again, they're going to be the hack of Dwight again, and he's going to make less than 50% of his free throws, which is just killing them, absolutely killing. Houston should have won, well, you could say the same with Clippers. They had the same kind of issue. But, I mean, I look at Houston, and I think they have enough offense, nowhere near the level of Golden State, but I think they have a vastly better defense. And when you get to this stage in the playoffs, and it showed in the last series where Golden State, Memphis, in a couple of those games, Golden State had no idea what to do because Memphis put enough pressure on their shooters that when you're a one-trick pony team like Golden State, their shooting team, if they're not shooting well, they will not win. And Memphis embarrassed them in a couple games by completely shutting them down. They weren't able to put a rock in the water. And I think that Houston has that potential to be able to shut them down, primarily with Keith. I got to tell you, I got a new idol.
Uh-oh.
I love this man.
Uh-oh.
I think he is by far the catalyst to their victory yesterday, and no one mentioned him. And that is 38-year-old Pablo Prigioni.
Oh, boy.
Watching him yesterday was ridiculous. Like, it made me feel really old that I'm his age. And he was the fastest guy in the court when he was on the court. Some of the steals he had were incredible. I mean, he had 4 points, 4 assists, and 3 steals. But those 3 steals came when the Clippers were making a big push. And they were all, most of them were inbound passes. It was amazing just watching that guy go. But it's just, they have that depth on their bench. Like you mentioned Trevor Ariza. They have depth on Houston that I think Golden State lacks, because they really, for Golden State, once Thompson and Curry, if they're not on, they're not winning. Period. End of story. Houston proved, at least in Game 6, that you can take Harden out of the game when he's struggling, and they will still find a way to win. Thanks to a resurgent Josh Smith, which completely caught me off guard. I was not expecting that.
Caught everybody off guard.
He's playing out of his mind. And like you said, Ariza was like 6 years ago, the way he was playing. It was amazing. So I just think Houston has the depth. I don't think Harden is going to struggle the way he did during this last series. I think he's going to come in ready to roll. But once again, I believe that everything is going to ride on if Dwight Howard can put up a double-double every game at least and I'm going to throw out there just shooting 60% of his free throws. If Dwight Howard makes 60% of his free throws, I think they win the series.
Really?
Because they're going to hack him. I mean, everyone has learned after that last series with the Clippers. I mean, he made I think it was mid 40% for his free throws, and he shot a million of them. He shot over 80, I believe.
Yeah, but Hackett DeAndre didn't really get anybody anywhere. You know what I mean? I mean, he's terrible. Don't get me wrong. He's a one-trick pony. I'm no fan of DeAndre Jordan. But I don't know if they're going to hack him as much as everybody thinks they do.
But I noticed something yesterday, too. It's not even hacking him. It's the threat of hacking him made Kevin McHale pull him in the fourth quarter when they needed him out there.
Right.
Because he knew that the Clippers were going to hack him.
You're right.
So here you all of a sudden take out that defensive force because he can't make a free throw.
No, you're absolutely
right. And it was a smart move on McHale, I'm not going to lie. I mean, and you could tell the Clippers, honestly, one of the funniest sports bloopers, I'm going to call it, I've ever seen was at the end of the game yesterday when Chris Paul was jumping on Dwight Howard like a gnat on a rhino.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Oh, my God, that was hysterical. That was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. But yeah. I don't know. I think Houston has what it takes. I just saw a lot of issues with Golden State in that last series. You know, I just think they were too much firepower for Memphis, because Memphis, they have solid play under the basket. But then, you know, out towards their guards and small forwards, they're good but not great. And then you had some injuries. So to me, I just think Houston matches up better. I think it causes a little more issues, and I just think they're going to be able to take it to Golden State.
You look at these teams, and statistically, they are probably as evenly matched as any conference final that you or I could probably remember. What I see when I look at these two teams is I'm anticipating something that brings us almost back to late 80s basketball. A lot of running, a lot of up-tempo style, a lot of shooting, a lot of points. I'm telling you, this is going to be an exciting series to watch. Golden State holds the home court advantage. The one thing that I just eats at me is that Golden State is still young, and not in so much in age, but in playoff experience. And not that a whole lot of players on Houston have been through that, but Dwight Howard's been to a finals. James Harden has been to a finals, right? He was on Oklahoma City when they made the finals, correct? I'm almost positive. James Harden. Was he on the Thunder the year they made the finals?
No. I think he left that year before.
Okay, well, at least the conference finals. He's been deep in the playoffs with Oklahoma City. I think that plays a factor in this. You look at like the stats, effective field goal percentage. Golden State's leading the way, 53.1. Houston's at 51.1. And Golden State is a really good shooting team. You look at true shooting percentage, which weights free throws and 3-point shots accordingly. Free throws being easier, 3-point shots being harder. Golden State leading the way at 56. Houston's right behind them at 55. These are the two best shooting teams in the NBA. Something's got to separate. Golden State turns the ball over more, but they also have more assists. It's like, how do you pick between one or the other? Something's got to separate this apart. And at the end of the day, I'm going to take the guys that have been through the war, and I'm picking Houston in 7.
Yeah, I agree. I'm actually going to go 5 games.
Come on.
I am.
Are you kidding me?
I think Houston in 5.
No.
Because, like I said, the one big difference to me between Golden State and Houston is Houston's proven that they can beat a very good team without their superstar. To where Golden State, if you take out their superstar, they are very average. Curry and Thompson, find a way to contain them. You don't even have to shut them down. Just find a way to contain them, put pressure on them each time they take a shot, and they're very beatable. I mean, I just don't have as much faith in Iguodala and Bogut, and even though Green and Barnes have been playing well, I just don't have the faith in them that I do in an Ariza. In a Josh Smith, guys that are veterans, guys that have experience, guys, and even my buddy Pablo, because he's only a third year in the NBA, but he's played 17 seasons, and I think it was Argentina, but he was pretty much the Steve Nash of the European game. You know what I mean? So it's like you have a team that has a lot of just playoff experience, life experience, and like you said, Golden State just seems young. They just seem like, they have the excitement, but do they have the focus that they need? And I give Steve Kerr a lot of credit. I think he's done a really good job picking up the pieces after the whole Mark Jackson debacle, but I don't know. I still think Houston's going to take it. I have faith in the Boston Celtics, and Kevin McHale is the coach. If he has to strap his shoes on, I think he will. I'll get down there.
And on that note, we'll take our first break. We just broke down the NBA Conference Finals for you, folks. You're listening to 87 Sports Fans Live on Late Night Sports Radio.
Lost or found love, lying by your side.
Take another second to keep breathing in the moment before it's gone. You never know when love is lost until you find just what it costs to be wrong. I wonder if you think of me passing by, you think you see me coming. I wonder if you pull me in, kiss me just one time again. Cause in the final hours of night, do you remember? Lost or found love lying by your side. Cause in the final hours of night, do you remember? Lost or found love lying by your side. Days will keep on coming and the nights will keep on going till they're tired. Falling fast asleep and as they dream of ghosts of beats filled with desire. The trance of life is all around, a chance to take is always found. Oh, writing on the lullabies, I'm alone and live your life. Oh, in the final hours of night, do you remember? Lost or found love lying by your side. In the final hours of night, do you remember? Lost or found love lying by your side. Take another second to keep breathing in the moment before it's gone. You never know when love is lost until you find just what it costs to be wrong. I wonder if you think of me passing by, you think you see me coming. I wonder if you pull me in, kiss me just one time again. The final hours of night, do you remember? Lost or found love lying by your side. In the final hours of night, do you remember? Lost or found love lying by your side. In the final hours of night, do you remember? Hours of night, do you remember? Lost or found love lying by your side. In the final hours of night, do you remember? Lost or found love lying by your side.
Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
'87 Sports Fans Live. This is Keith Grieve and Steve Taylor taking you through the second segment of the program. Top of the hour, Jim Sarantias from thefantasygreek.com will join us talking about Arizona Cardinals and Atlanta Falcons as we begin the off-season march towards kickoff. You think about it, 32 teams, 2 teams a week. It's only 16 weeks, right? I mean, it's going to fly by.
Well, I don't even want to think about no football.
And next week is Memorial Day, so there's no show next week. It's going to fly right by, and before you know it, we're going to be talking about Deflategate all over again.
I don't want to even get started on that travesty.
Which, by the way, I'm tired of talking about it. But
Yeah,
my God,
it's ridiculous.
if there ever was an example of just a team or an identity unable to get out of its own way, it's Tom Brady right now. And just you should have just fessed up and just been like, yeah, I like softer balls. Insert joke here, by the way, but
It
so
is
what
stupid.
it is.
Just to think that originally a spousal abuser got 2-game suspension, and now the potentially deflating a couple footballs, which had no impact on the game, got 4 games, 2 draft picks, and $1 million.
Yeah, but you know what though? I mean, Ray Rice should have been dealt with more harshly than he was. No doubt. I am not saying that, but once you start toying around with factors, and again, the deflated footballs had no bearing in the outcome of the game, but you can't go down that slippery slope. You have to draw the line somewhere. So I understand why it's a big issue. I just don't think we needed this independent investigation. It just should have been like, with the balls underinflated, okay, Patriots get fined, lose draft picks, end of story, and you get Tom Brady for the whole season. Instead, you bring this investigator in, and now all of a sudden he's lying, and now you have to deal with him because you can't set that example to the rest of the league. And so you create this issue bigger than it has to be when it should have been all just freaking nipped in the bud. And it is a classic case of mismanagement and overthinking the issue. Thank you.
And you're leaving out a major component. It was a $5.5 million investigation that took 6 months.
Right.
$5.5 million.
Right.
Insanity. Pure and simple insanity.
Yes. And it only seems to be excusable in the NFL. But it is what it is.
People wonder why people in other countries hate Americans. You have 9,000 people dying in a horrendous earthquake in Nepal. And we spent $5 million because a professional athlete may have deflated footballs that had no bearing on a game.
Yeah.
That right there shows the problem that we're having right now with our country.
A complete waste of resources.
Unbelievably.
All right, so this is the MLB segment, though, folks, in case you couldn't tell, which is my fault.
I couldn't tell.
It's my fault because I brought up Deflategate. It's all my fault. Driver error. But let's just thank God I wasn't in command of a train in Philadelphia. Oh,
too soon.
Yeah, it was. That's a terrible, terrible story. Anyway. Scoreboard going on right now. Bottom of the 12th, the Cardinals and the Mets tied at 1 apiece. The story in this game, the Mets were leading 1-0 when Matt Harvey left the game and turned it over to Jurius Familia. The closer had previously been pretty lights out all season, but lo and behold, sacrifice fly ties the game up, and we're now in the 12th inning. It seems to be a reoccurring story with Harvey's starts last season and now the last 2. There's no run support. There's no bats. I mean, they're playing the Cardinals, which are the best team in the National League right now. Let's not take anything away from that. John Lackey pitched a hell of a game himself. But, gosh, I've never been more eager for injuries to be over than I am for David Wright and Travis d'Arnaud. Because it seems like this Mets team, while they may not be able to hold on to first place for the rest of the season, may not even make the playoffs, at least they could have a pretty entertaining season, which I think is just as important in New York. But,
I mean, to be in first place in the East with 38 games in the books, that's, that right there is a small victory for them. And like you said, they might not be able to make it all the way to the end, but, I mean, right now, you can say Washington's playing, pretty good. Atlanta's playing pretty good. They both have little win streaks going. But overall, the Mets have been most consistent this year. So you got to think that they have a good shot if they don't pull a Munson and completely drop out like they've done and put in other seasons when it gets to the final stretch. Because I've had way too many late August, early Septembers where you've been inconsolable because the Mets have gone from making the postseason to, sweeping up after the rest of the teams.
Matt Harvey, 8 innings pitched, 6 hits, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts. He's got a season ERA of 1.98, and he's not even going to get a decision in his last 2 games. He's been absolutely lights out, and this team is just incapable of getting out of its own way. It's just fantastic right now. It's fantastically miserable. The worst season was 2007, watching them, because I was still living in New Jersey at the end of that baseball season, and I was living right outside of Philadelphia, and to watch them shrink and give up the lead to the Phillies on the last day of the season, as I was sitting at my going-away party as I was moving back to Western New York at Chicky and Pete's in central New Jersey, and all these Philly fans going nuts as the Phillies were winning the division, and I'm just like, oh my God, I just want to rip my eyes out with a fork. But that's the Mets. That's being a Mets fan, folks, whether you like it or not.
Because you're not kidding. There are 9 teams in the National League that have scored more runs than the Mets.
The offense is atrocious.
Yeah. Their pitching is just amazing.
And when they were hot and winning, and that 11-game winning streak, they were scoring runs. And then David Wright turns out blame, and Darno has a freak injury, and don't even get me started. And like it's a curse. Like Dilson Herrera the other day fractures the fingertip, taking grounders before a game, 15-day DL, and he was just starting to I don't even want to say get on track. He was just starting to get comfortable in the major leagues. Mm-hmm. Dear God. It's a mess.
That's just bad luck.
It's an absolute mess. End of the 12th now. Cardinals Mets 1-1 going to the top of the 13th. Also going on we'll switch over to the American League, the Athletics leading the Astros 2-1. In the middle of the 7th, the 25-13 Houston Astros.
Who would have thought? Okay, this is what shocked me. I haven't looked at the standings in a couple weeks because I've been a little preoccupied.
Why?
A baby.
Oh, yeah, that.
Baby.
That old chestnut.
Who would have thought going into this season that at this point in the season, Houston and Oakland would have exact opposite win-loss records, but it would be not in the way you would think.
Right.
Where Houston would be 25-13, and the Athletics would be 13-26.
Well, and how about this? As far as run differential, only one team has outscored their opponents more than the Houston Astros, and that's the Kansas City Royals.
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous to me. This was a team. This was a team that's been.
Oakland. There's only 2 other teams in the American League that have scored more runs than them. But their pitching is they've given up more runs than pretty much any team in baseball, next to the Toronto Blue Jays. That right there, it's just incredible. Their pitching is just horrendous.
They have a staff whip of 1.12. 21 quality starts to date from their starting rotation. I mean, what more can you ask for?
Yeah. Crazy.
You know, it's the only thing that you kind of, not to be a harbinger or whatever but you look at their batting average. Their team batting average is .229. That's not going to get it done, and eventually the pitching will not be there. I said this about the Mets' 11-game win streak. Baseball is a game of averages. Eventually, there's a market correction, and eventually, all of your glaring weaknesses catch up to you. The Mets' glaring weaknesses catching up to them now, and eventually, it'll catch up to the Astros too. But right now, riding that hot start, I mean, you gotta love it if you're in Houston because the last 2 seasons have been absolutely atrocious.
Oh, it's been
almost unbearable. I mean, you've been out of it the last 2 seasons. The Astros have been dead in the water by now.
Yeah.
So
out of the postseason in May, it's just crazy.
Phillies 4, Rockies 1, heading into they're in the top of the 7th apparently right now. Phillies come into this with a 16-23 record. The Rockies 13-21. Still holding on to Troy Tulowitzki, who was the preseason subject of big trade rumors. But
I'd love to see the ratings on this game.
Yeah, right. If you're the Rockies, Tulowitzki is pretty much the only reason anybody's coming to your ballpark right now. So what's your motivation to trade him? Not much, if you ask me.
Unless they're trying to pull the Florida Marlins and or I should say Miami Marlins, offload everybody and then just start from scratch.
You would need a good amount of prospects in exchange for Tulowitzki, but Tulowitzki's like older than dirt. Like who's going to give you much, if anything, in return? I mean, he's 30 years old. I take that back. He's not older than dirt. He's 30 years old. No one's going to give you much for a 30-year-old shortstop. That's not going to be able to play shortstop much longer.
Unless they find a way to make him look irresistible to the Yankees. They've been known to throw tons of money at over-the-hill players.
I told you, my preseason prediction of a player destined to be a Yankee was Ryan Howard, but he's still got a year left on his deal after this year. But he's a power-hitting left-handed hitter in Yankee Stadium. He'd eat that place up.
Yeah.
And the Phillies don't have much to look forward to. So the only problem is like, what prospects do the Yankees have to offer up? You know what I mean? They're stuck in a develop mode, really. Because if you start giving up prospects for these over-the-hill players, eventually you're going to have to just suck it up, and you might as well just suck it up now.
Yeah.
Because, if in case you haven't noticed, kids, the Yankees are still winning baseball games.
Yeah, no, they're in first.
First by a game.
It's not the most devastating division in the American League. The East is, there's some decent numbers, but I mean, you got two teams over 500, and Lord knows that Boston and especially Baltimore have been underperforming this year. So.
Yeah, and they're all the bottom third of the bottom three teams in that team are really neck and neck. I mean, it's just so funny. You look at some of the numbers, the run differential. The Red Sox are 18-20 in third place. They've been outscored by 33 runs this season. The Blue Jays are in last place, 18-22, and they've outscored their opponents by 14. So, I'd put my money. Which of those three teams, Boston, Baltimore, or Toronto, to kick it up a notch in the second half? I put my money on the Blue Jays.
Yeah, but we've been putting our money on the Blue Jays for a couple seasons now, and they've just not lived up to their potential.
Oh, you're right. And just like the Dodgers, who lead the regular season and then fade in the postseason. So quite the opposite. The opposite. Final scores. The Blue Jays, we just talked about the Blue Jays, beat the Angels 10-6, which makes me happy because the Angels deserve to just rot in hell after the way they treated Josh Hamilton. Sorry. I know that might be controversial, but...
Which he might be back on the field tomorrow, I believe, with Texas.
Yep, they're hoping.
So, wish him well. Hopefully he has... I mean, for somebody that was up front with the team of what they were getting into and them to treat him the way they did, I still don't understand that. What were you going to say?
You are stupid if you run a team in Los Angeles and you throw that much money at an addict. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And especially Texas, when they acquired him, they told, and this is just what I've heard through interviews and through some of the Major League Baseball network, Texas told them how they dealt with Hamilton, which they had somebody with him at all times. When, they were on the road, they had a guy that would shadow him just to make sure he didn't go to the bar, just to make sure. When they were at home, they had a guy that kind of followed him, make sure he made it home. They kept on him to make sure. Like you said, they goes to Los Angeles, they give him all this money, and they're like, all right, go out on your own. Come on. It makes no sense.
In L.A., you're just begging for a disaster.
So I'm happy he's back with the Texas. I think he can actually not only succeed as a player, but get the help he needs and get sober once and for all. So let's hope.
For the Angels, Albert Pujols, 2 for 5 with a home run. David Freese, also 2 for 4 with a home run as well. Chris Iannetta, 3 for 4 with 2 ribbies and also a long ball. For the Blue Jays, Jose Bautista, 3 for 4.
Oh, Bautista.
3 for 4 with a home run, his 7th of the year. and 3 RBIs. Russell Martin 3 for 5 with 2 ribbies. It's the Blue Jays. If they ever decide to turn it on, they can make some noise. The Angels, you look at them. They're the Angels. They should be in it, but I'm rooting against them now. That's just me.
Yeah.
Milwaukee Brewers 3, Detroit Tigers 2. I will never root for the Brewers as long as they have Ryan Braun on their roster. That's just me. Carlos Gomez 2 for 5 for the Brewers, and pretty much nothing else to speak of. Mike Fiers, the starter, gets chased after 5 2/3, throwing 104 pitches. For the Tigers, J.D. Martinez 2 for 4. Not much else to speak of, but it's Jeremy Jeffress in relief getting the win. Fantastic. The Brewers are one of those teams that just, I don't know, they're so blah. We talked about this on previous shows. Certain franchises are just blah. There's like nothing to them, no color, no nothing, just blah. The Brewers are one of those franchises.
And honestly, I know it's just their name and where they're located, but every time I watch a Brewers game, I'm expecting to see a keg on second base.
Yeah,
I just see drunk players every time I hear that name.
That's
and
better.
I know that's juvenile and stupid, but I thought that way since I was a kid.
Where you went was better than what I thought you were going. I thought you were going to go Laverne and Shirley.
No. Schlemiel, Schlemile,
Yeah,
Hot Stuff Incorporated.
Like Diamondbacks beat the Marlins in extra innings. The Marlins shocking everybody by naming their general manager their new manager, which nobody knows much about. He's got no experience. The only thing he's ever coached is a high school team. So good luck with that. And the last final score in the American League, the Chicago White Sox beat the Indians in 10 innings, 2-1. For the White Sox, Zach Duke gets the win. Zach McAllister with the loss for the Indians. Not a whole lot of offense, obviously, as you can tell. Melky Cabrera, 2 for 4. Very different.
Very different.
Connor Gillespie, 2 for 4 for the White Sox. Jose Ramirez, wow, I'm butchering this, 2 for 3 for the Indians. And only 1 run scored by Roberto Perez. Scoring for the White Sox, J.B. Shuck, which is one of the best names in baseball history. J.B. Shuck.
Oh, shucks.
Yeah, well, I wasn't going to go there, but
I went there. I'm there for you, Keith.
I was thinking more like, what do they call his mom? Mother Shuck?
Oh, my God.
Yep, I went there, kids. I went there. So let's take our second break here. That's the Major League Baseball scoreboard rundown with 87 Sports Fans live on Late Night Sports Radio.
Baby, you're a mystery. Tell me what's a girl gotta do? Looking at the history doesn't seem to give any clue. Just when I think I understand it all, you seem to unravel some more. Ooh, I never know nobody like you. Ooh, now I know. Baby, you're my diamond.
Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
'87 Sports Fans Live. Keith Grief, Steve Taylor from 87sportsfans.com here to bring you the NFL Hour, the first NFL Hour we've had in a long time with Jim Sarantias from the FantasyGreek.com. Jim, how are you? Welcome back to the program.
Hey, Keith, thanks for having me back. And Steve, so good to hear your lovely voice.
Thanks, man. It's good to hear yours as well. I've been out of touch for a little while.
Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it? How's fatherdom treating you?
Phenomenal. Love it.
Is it?
Love it, love it, love it. Greatest thing ever. Everyone who talks highly of it is not lying.
Oh, that's so sweet, dude.
It's great. He is a great little guy.
Have you gotten spit up on yet?
Oh, of course.
Good.
How about peed upon?
Twice.
Oh, that's beautiful. He loves you then.
The first time was actually kind of funny. We were changing a poopy diaper, and he started pooping again. So we were focused on that, and we didn't realize he was also peeing at the same time on the wall behind us.
Nice.
So all of a sudden, when we noticed, we both started breaking down laughing. It was probably one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
That's pretty funny.
Nice.
Yeah, it was great. And there was a poor elephant that was behind him, got it right in the face. I felt bad for the elephant.
And it was stuffed elephant? Or you mean on the wall? I'm sorry, on the wall.
No, it was a stuffed elephant. It was a stuffed elephant that was sitting in right outside his crib, and he got nailed him right in the face.
Nice, because that's what it gets. So,
oh, Keith.
Yeah, I just took you back to 1996, didn't I?
Yeah.
Dear God. All right, so we're going to talk NFL football, kids. How are we doing? We're going to talk Arizona Cardinals and the Atlanta Falcons this evening. We were talking about it in the last segment, Jim. I mean, if you think about it, we take 2 teams per week. That only gives us 16 weeks. By the time we get done with this whole mess, we'll be in the middle of. We'll be talking 4 months from now. That's opening week almost. We're gonna have to put the hurry up on this.
Hey, whatever you guys want to do.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, so we're starting at the top of the alphabet just to prove that we have no bias, and we're going to talk Arizona Cardinals and Atlanta Falcons offseason opinions. We'll start with the Cardinals in Arizona. The Cardinals last season had what a lot of people would say was a pretty successful season. I mean, considering when you look at the Cardinals, they finished 11-5, 1 game away from from Seattle. We all know what the Seahawks are. But when you think that the fact that they used as many quarterbacks as they did, Carson Palmer getting hurt when he did, it really is remarkable that they were able to hold things together and finish with that record in that division. I mean, the Niners, they struggled. They weren't what everybody thought they would be. But they're still a 500 team. The Rams, again, they're a mess, but they were a tough beat in spots. So for Arizona to be 11-5, I know winning anything short of winning the Super Bowl is a disappointment to an NFL player, but Arizona really had a successful year last year, no?
Yeah, of course they had.
That's
my
softball little pitch to you. Yeah. So to start the show off.
No.
That was an easy one.
Thanks.
Yeah. But then you get into the offseason and you start looking at the developments. Their defensive coordinator Todd Bowles named the head coach of the New York Jets. So you have some turnover there, if you will. But it's going to be more of the same in Arizona when you look at defense. When you look at their offense, their free agency acquisitions, anyway. If you look at who is coming over to the Cardinals from other teams, Mike Iupati comes over from the San Francisco 49ers, Corey Peters, D-tackle, Corey Redding from the Colts, Sean Weatherspoon comes over from the Falcons, Lamar Woodley comes over from the Raiders. Who knows? And again, who knows how much he's got left in the tank. Decidedly, defensive aside from the offensive line addition of Iupati. And players that they lost. Sam Acho goes to the Bears. Antonio Cromartie to the Jets. Darnell Dockett, who was injured most of last season, to the 49ers. And again, I'm just doing players of note. Ted Ginn goes back to the Panthers. and really that's it. So I turn over my thoughts on the draft to you because you just wrote a bunch of fantastic draft grades for the fantasygreek.com. What was your take on the Arizona Cardinals draft?
Well, in general, I thought it was average or less than average. I mean, they definitely scored big with DJ Humphries early in the draft, but it I'm one of these people that I look at everything in the big picture. If I want to just sit there and say, hey, the first 3 draft picks were really good for what they needed, and then just not talk about anybody else, I think that's short selling the idea of analyzing a team and really saying what they did well and what they did not do well. So for the Cardinals, DJ Humphries was a nice addition. I like Marcus Golden, but I think they could have probably waited a round or 2 on him. I love the David Johnson draft pick. Absolute stud. He looked great at the Senior Bowl. I've described him before. He kind of has the power of Steven Jackson, but the fluidity and silky running style of an Arian Foster. So I think he'll fit well over there. And then after that, they basically drafted 4 developmental players, rounds 4 through 7. So at the end of the day, without addressing center, which they still have a need, inside linebacker, which I believe they still have a need, they had sort of an average draft. Everybody's, highlighting DJ Humphries and David Johnson, and I think those are great. But, when you have an opportunity, add players, and don't just add players who you can coach and develop, but draft players you can coach, develop, and start as soon as possible. Because if somebody gets hurt, you want the best player possible filling in for them. So that's how I felt about their draft. When it comes to the regular season, did they do enough to really differentiate themselves from the Seahawks? Because that's going to be the team that stands in their way. That's hard to say. Clearly, getting Carson Palmer is huge. Getting him back is huge. I mean, he's the key to all this.
And I agree. It all comes down in a whopping House of Cards kind of scenario. Not the Netflix series, by the way, but like literally House of Cards. If Carson Palmer is less than what he was before he got injured, the inside linebacker need that you addressed, they signed Darryl Sharpton from the Bears last year. He's listed at our lads as being the backup, but Sharpton did play well in spots for the Bears, and he has played in the 3-4 before with the Houston Texans before he went to the Bears. So they got that going for him, I guess, because right now there's Kenny Demmons and Kevin Minter listed as the 2 inside linebackers. That's not going to get it done.
Now, they did sign Sean Weatherspoon from the Falcons, which was a great signing, but they've only gotten 7. Sean Weatherspoon has played 7 games in the last 2 seasons. At the end of the day, I mean, it's really all about, is he healthy? He's been declared healthy. Let's see what they got.
Right. Do you think Andre, from a fantasy perspective now, do you think Andre Ellington takes that step we were hoping for him to take last year, or do you think he is what he is at this point? We're going to see more of what we saw last year from him.
Well, I think we're going to see a little bit more of 2013 than 2014. What's been proven is Ellington is not a running back that should be getting the football 20 times a game. I mean, he's a specialty player. He works best out of the backfield in pass play situations. I see David Johnson coming on and being more of that first, second, and sometimes third down running back, not as often as Ellington. It should be actually a very inviting backfield. Both of them I'm projecting to have right around 1,200 all-purpose yards, and both of them I'm projecting with 4 TDs each. So that's not bad in fantasy football. That's a good solid RB2 for both players. And I'd probably look at Ellington as more of a low-end RB2 flex play. I'm sorry, not Ellington. David Johnson. For draft purposes, I probably wouldn't give him that RB2 status, if only because he's a rookie. If I could get him as flex, I'd feel a lot more comfortable about that.
Okay. So if you're going to draft at this point now, not knowing, not seeing any kind of preseason footage, if you're going to draft anybody, if you're going to draft David Johnson, the later part of your draft, if at all, correct?
Oh, he's going to get drafted.
Oh, okay. He's
a flex play. I mean, so he could be one of your starters in the flex position.
Okay. So you really, we're talking about Andre Ellington not getting all that much playing time.
No, I think they're just going to be a little bit more smarter about him. I mean, I see him more as a 150 touch running back. Maybe they give him 200 touches. which would still put him ahead of David Johnson. But I think last year really proved that, man, running backs take a beating in the NFL, and if you don't have the size and the build for it, you can really just have a very short career.
So don't handcuff Ellington to Stephen Taylor. David Johnson's going to be the guy.
Yeah, I'm expecting him to be. I mean, we'll need to obviously wait for the word out of training camp, but there's no way they drafted David Johnson with their 3rd overall pick to sit on the sidelines unless he really blows it in camp. If Stephon Taylor was the answer, he would have been the answer by now.
Right. All right, so wide receiver for the Cardinals, you still got Larry Fitzgerald and Michael Floyd, kind of the usual suspects there, and John Brown, who's shown flashes at times. Does the lack of wide receiver depth scare you about Arizona from a fantasy standpoint, as far as like Carson Palmer's worth, Fitzgerald's worth, even Floyd's worth?
Well, their depth scares me in terms of if the injury bug strikes, who are they as a football team going to fall back on? But in terms of their overall value, it's pretty steady and consistent, especially from a fantasy perspective. You can't really say Michael Floyd's going to take a big jump forward because he would have done that last year, even if Carson Palmer didn't get hurt, and that didn't happen. Larry Fitzgerald saw a drop-off in production, mostly in red zone TDs, but he'll get Carson Palmer back, so I expect him to get a bounce back in terms of his TDs. The guy that sort of is the wild card here is John Brown. I've got about 80 receptions that are unaccounted for. Somebody's going to have to eat into that, whether it be one of the wide receiver or one of the running backs or another wide receiver. So John Brown could actually make a big jump, but no one's really stood out in that group since Carson Palmer's been there. So I expect more of the same. This is Bruce Arians saying this is what works. If we're going to get a jump in some statistical category to help us get it over the hump, we're getting it from these guys.
It'll be kind of interesting to see where Arizona goes from here, because you look at the loss of Cromartie in the defensive backfield. Sure, they got Patrick Peterson still. They got Tyrann Mathieu as the free safety. I mean, those are the names. Deion Buchanan, as well. But the loss on that one side of Cromartie is huge, and right now Gerard Powers is listed as the starter there. So all of this from and I go back to the fantasy standpoint for obvious reasons, but if they find themselves not able to play defense at the level that they would, I mean, they got new personnel, they got a new coordinator. Sure, it's going to be the same scheme, but who knows? I mean, we could see Carson Palmer throw a ton, and usually I see that as a red flag, as like, oh, Carson Palmer's going to have a big year. But outside of Fitzgerald and Floyd, I don't know if they really have the offensive personnel to be that kind of fantasy, to lead to a fantasy proficient quarterback. I don't know. Am I crazy? Am I rambling? Do I make sense? Or
no, this is all about Carson Palmer and whether or not he can push his 4,300 yard per season ceiling upward. And that's hard to say. That's roughly what he's averaged the last 3 years. So, I agree with you. I think there's sort of a ceiling in place here on the offense, and that's Carson Palmer. If they're going to be a great team, he's got to push it to 4,800 yards, and I just don't know if he can do it.
Wow. All right. So from a dynasty standpoint, who on the Cardinals is a must keep if you're selecting your keepers?
Well, I would keep Michael Floyd. I'd give him another chance this year to have Carson Palmer under center the whole year. I can't say that it would necessarily make a difference, but it's worth doing. He sort of had his third season was last year, and why don't you just give him a mulligan and give him another chance this year? And obviously, you hang on to Andre Ellington. Whether he ends up being the second, the main running back, the second running back really doesn't matter. The reality is he's got RB2 and flex appeal going forward.
Okay.
Oh, hang on to John Brown too, but yeah, he's more of a bye week guy.
Kind of a flyer, like.
Yeah.
Okay. Steve-O, thoughts on the Cardinals? You've been quiet.
Well, I mean, when you have somebody that has Jim's knowledge, and I'll be honest, when it comes to the Cardinals, I have not kept up too much with their offseason, so I'm as much a fan writing down what he's saying as much as I'm a co-host right now, so. I'm not going to interject with just a bunch of fluff. I'd rather listen to him and take notes.
Do you have any Cardinals on your fantasy team?
No, not whatsoever.
Okay. These are questions that need to be asked. Sorry.
The only thing I could say is I do worry about Carson Palmer. I think the Cardinals have a lot of talent, but I agree with Jim. He's kind of the wild card. It's like everything's going to revolve around if he can stay healthy or not.
Right.
And I mean, here, if you look at the Cardinals from a fan perspective, what are they supposed to do? This isn't like there's 20 quarterbacks out there that they can go pick up a tree and plug him into their lineup and say, oh, he's better than Carson Palmer. It just does not exist, especially as good as this team has been playing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So
can I say something? Whenever you go, right, I feel like you're not as satisfied as you should be.
No, it's I'm trying to figure out. I feel like
I
we
need
should
to be your wife.
But the thing, no, right? So I got news for you. So does she. But that was a joke. You guys I was expecting more laughter from that one, but damn it.
No, because there was truth behind that.
Oh man. Make my own laughter. All right, sorry. I cut that one short. I feel like with the Cardinals, there's more to talk about because they were like kind of knocking on the door before Carson got hurt. But this seems like a very vanilla roster right now to me. I mean, there's nothing that really. I mean, Larry Fitzgerald is Larry Fitzgerald.
You've hit it on the head. They're a very vanilla roster, and I mean, until they make some substantial changes to their roster, that's just the way they are. They truly believe that the person, and they have to believe this, that the personnel that they have in place can win football games with them. They just need to stay healthy.
All right, so they finished second in the division last year. Looking at this roster right now, do you think they're even, better, or worse?
Same.
You say they finished second right now. Don't worry, the big prediction show is coming up in August, folks. Don't worry about this. These ones don't mean anything right now. So. Jim's making faces at me. That's fantastic. All right, so let's move on to the Atlanta Falcons here.
Keith, you got to get Steve, you got to get the video portion of this. You're missing out, man.
I don't know. I see what you both look like. I think I'm doing all right.
That's great.
Don't worry, shirts are on tonight. Shirts are on.
Oh, thank God.
For now.
The nipple rings were too much.
I had 3 rum and cokes before the show began, and I haven't had time to go up and get my 4th. So who knows what happens when that happens. All right, so the Atlanta Falcons. Anyway, yeah.
You sure you didn't get your 4th yet?
Buzzing. Looking at who's coming over with new head coach Dan Quinn. Phillip Adams, really not a big deal. DB coming over from the Jets. They re-signed Croy Bierman. Adrian Claiborne coming over from the Buccaneers. Leonard Hankerson, wide receiver, comes over from the Washington Redskins. They re-signed Antone Smith. Jacob Tammy comes over. Who knows what he's got left in the tank. But any free agent losses? Harry Douglas goes over to the Tennessee Titans. I think that's a signing that nobody's really understanding how much that might mean. But and again, new coach, new philosophy. We'll see what happens. But I think they might miss him a little bit more than everyone wants to admit. I mentioned Corey Peters going over to the Arizona Cardinals. Jacquizz Rodgers, backup running back, obviously goes to the Chicago Bears. And I believe that's about it as far as the free agency losses and adds from the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons were one of the bigger disappointments in the NFL last season. They finished at 6-10. Only the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were worse in the NFC South, in a division that was won by a team that couldn't reach 500. And the Falcons, for as much as they struggled, were only 2 games out, a game and a half out of first place in that division. But needless to say, the head coach was sacked, Mike Smith, out of a job. Entered Dan Quinn, former defensive coordinator of the Seattle Seahawks. Jim, what did you think of their draft, first of all? The Atlantis.
They graded out better than the Cardinals, and part of the reason was, quite frankly, they just filled at least one more need than the Cardinals did, as well as they did a better job drafting. For example, Vic Beasley was a top first-round draft pick, and they got him. And Jalen Collins, another first-round draft pick, maybe a late rounder, but they got him in the second round. Tevin Coleman, borderline first-rounder, but solid second-rounder, got him in the third round. I mean, they did those kinds of things until the very end of their draft when they picked up more draft and develop type of players, but they did that exactly in the seventh round when you're supposed to do that. Players prior to that, the better players you can get with a better skill set, ready to play, the better the grade, which is why I thought they did such a better job.
They had big needs in the secondary, big needs on the offensive line.
Huge.
You look at
and really, if then you look at it, you kind of say, "Ooh, did they do enough for their offensive line?" I don't know.
You look at the starting lineup right now. You've got Jake Matthews at left tackle, Ryan Schrader at right tackle, John Asamoah at right guard, Harlan Gunn at left guard, Joe Hawley at center. I don't know if that's enough.
This is a situation where I think what's key is Sam Baker coming back healthy, and if they can get another year out of him, they could maybe move Jake Matthews in, to play guard, and then just kind of sort of do a shuffle on the line, bring in Peter Cones, second-round draft pick from 2012. They haven't really gotten anything out of him, I think, that they've expected. So, if you can get some of these guys to start playing this year, they can have this better offensive line. And for Tevin Coleman's sake, I really hope so. But then you look at their defense, and I can't say that they got everybody that they needed, but it's probably going to be more than a one-year process, that's for sure.
And you look at Desmond Trufant. I said they had big needs in the secondary. Desmond Trufant is as good a corner as there is right now in the NFL. But beyond that, when you talk about today's NFL and you're looking at 3 wide receiver sets, a lot of times some teams have multiple tight ends that can catch the ball and stretch the field. More teams are using their running backs as receivers as well. You can't rely so much on just having 2 corners and calling it a day. You need 2 really good starting corners, and your nickel and dime corners have to be able to cover as well. And you look at the NFC South with the Saints and the Panthers as well. The Panthers don't have a multitude of wide receiver talent, but their star is the quarterback, and they're going to find a way for him to be successful. So I really think the Atlanta Falcons are poised to kind of like bounce back rather quickly, personally.
I think this is potentially going to be another year where they struggle, depending how that offensive line does.
I mean, if they find ways, I mean, you look, they're 3-10.
And even their defense. Excuse me. Let's talk about the defense, because I'm not sold that this group of players are the answer.
Okay.
Especially in their linebacking group.
They were overall the and
in their secondary. Let's talk about their secondary. Desmond Trufant is good.
Yeah,
Robert Alford, Desmond Southward, William Moore.
Yeah, none of them really played all that well. And you look at the rating on Pro Football Focus. Trufant was by far the best defensive player, but other than that, Dwight Lowery rated okay. But what's he really going to bring to you? Javier Arenas played 54 snaps. Everybody else was a negative production on that defense. So it really is building from the ground up. I like that they hired the right head coach, a defensive-minded coach in Dan Quinn. And if he can bring a little of what he brought to Seattle and implement it in Seattle, then the Falcons will be that much better. They still have the quarterback in Matt Ryan. You're not ready to cut bait on him yet. And you still got Julio Jones and why am I blanking out? The other
Roddy White.
Roddy White. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
He was 33, but he's still got great hands.
You've got weapons though.
But wait a minute. I mean, you could say the same exact thing. Well, first of all, they've had Roddy White and they've had Julio Jones the last couple of years, and that hasn't necessarily turned out for them, even when they were healthy.
Right.
And then you could sit here and make the same argument about, they've got the former defensive coordinator of the Seattle Seahawks. And here, what about Gus Bradley and the Jacksonville Jaguars? We're still waiting for that team to turn around and be a Gus Bradley team.
True. And every year we're saying the same thing. Well, I really like what the Jaguars did in the offseason. I really like what the Jaguars did in the offseason. Right. And something derails them. And we'll talk about them on another day. But then you look at Dante Fowler, and it just seems to be happening all over again. So nothing's a given. I think that if you're the Falcons, if you can fix the offensive line and you can find a way to scheme coverage better than to maximize performance, I think the Falcons can improve faster than a lot of people think.
I think their greatest off-season move was definitely to draft Tevin Coleman. I mean, they've now brought in a solid running back who could be a 3-down running back if they choose for him to be. And, personally, I had thought that their draft move would be to take a Todd Gurley or a Melvin Gordon with their first pick and then address all the other problems, including the offensive line and some of these spots on defense. But they didn't. They still got a good one in Tevin Coleman, who many would argue was the third-ranked running back in this draft class, and they got him in the third round. So you can't beat them up for that. Tevin Coleman's the best thing going for him, because if they can set up, or if they can establish a running game such as the running game that they had with Michael Turner, it will open up their entire offense. I was looking at Turner's stats his last couple of seasons. Well, I think the 2010-2011 season when he ran for over 1,300 yards, Roddy White and Julio Jones were kicking butt. It wasn't like suddenly the passing game fell off. It in fact thrived. Mm-hmm. So if they can do that, that will go a long way to making the defense look a little bit better.
4 of their losses last season, 4 of their 10 losses were by 7 points or less.
Yeah.
So
Ouch.
But I think a big thing, I've never been an Atlanta hater, so I've always been a fan of the team, the players. I mean, going back to the Michael
Steve, you're
Vick
such a
days.
hater. You're such
I'm
a
not
hater.
Hate is gonna hate. No. I think one of the big things that I agree with Jim that I don't see them rebounding this season is, they brought in, they've made some improvements. They still have some talent, but you can't overlook the fact that they bring in a head coach who's never been a head coach before in the NFL. I know he's had success as an assistant. Never been a head coach. Follows a head coach that has been part of Atlanta, pretty much part of everything in that town for the last 7 seasons. And I mean, that alone for the players that are still there and that have been there is going to be an adjustment. The new players are going to be an adjustment. I mean, until they get their footings, I just don't see them making a rebound yet. They do have the talent where, if they have Roddy White for a couple more seasons, he can help out. Maybe, a year or 2 from now, they make another push to get back to the playoffs. But you rarely see a first-time head coach going into a team that struggled the season before and having any kind of success. So if they do, it's great, but I just don't see it.
But Steve, don't you think the difference here is the team is not rebuilding?
What's that?
I mean, they're not rebuilding. So Gus Bradley goes to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they're literally rebuilding their team. They're drafting a new quarterback, trading for new running backs, drafting new running backs. Same thing with their wide receivers. Where here you sort of have a core nucleus for the Falcons. So I guess I don't agree with Keith either. But at the same time, I kind of look at their division, the NFC South, which is pretty weak to begin with, and I say, okay, well, I suppose the person to knock off the mountain is the Panthers, because it doesn't seem like it'll be the Saints, because they're doing more rebuilding than I think anybody else is in the division, with the exception of the Buccaneers. And the Buccaneers have actually taken a pretty good foot forward, it looks like. So
yeah, but I mean, you look at, they are pretty much rebuilding their defense.
Yeah, that's true.
Atlanta's defense was atrocious, so they're pretty much rebuilding the defense, and their core nucleus on offense have been known to be underperforming in big games, being Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Roddy White. So, as strong as they are, it's still, in my opinion, it's kind of a shaky nucleus. And like I said, on defense, they're pretty much rebuilding. And as what you said, picking up the running back was huge, because their running game I mean, since what work done has been almost non-existent.
Yeah, and Devontae Freeman, last year was one of these years I thought Devontae Freeman would overtake Steven Jackson as the season progressed. That did not happen. He is a small-statured running back. I think he's 5'8". So physically, I don't know that he could withstand a 16-game season, toting the rock 20 times or touching it 20 times. So I really think Tevin Coleman is in line for this workhorse running back spot. And I'm even being conservative. I'm only giving him 3.9 yards per carry, getting him at 975 yards, 125 yards receiving for 1,100 all-purpose yards and 8 TDs total, which might even be an understatement because when Michael Turner was there, I mean, he was averaging like 10 a year. So, Tevin Coleman is a big piece of them putting this team back together because next season they could really focus on 3-4 defensive players and, hopefully add another lineman somewhere on offense. Oh, by the way, they added Jacob Tamme. I completely forgot about that in the offseason.
Yeah, I mentioned
which was not a bad addition.
No, it can give you another element to your offense by all means. But
It's
Steve,
funny. I was actually just going to mention the whole tight end position because it seems like ever since Gonzalez retired, that was a huge hole.
Well, Levine Toilolo is not that kind of player.
Yeah, he's a blocking tight end.
Yeah.
They just don't trust him. I mean, he might be a big red zone target, but if that were the case, I mean, he'd be like Joseph Farai. He'd have 7-8 TDs, but he doesn't.
Yeah, I agree.
That's him.
Yeah, I agree. And Steve, you said that the Falcons have not had a running game since work done. You're forgetting about the blink of an eye that Michael Turner was there.
He's a big blink of an eye, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
big blink of an eye. Let's take a quick break. Jim, can you hang around for a little bit for the final?
Oh, I got with you guys a little. Yeah,
10 minutes. We'll do some random stuff when we come back. You're listening to 87 Sports Fans Live on Late Night Sports Radio.
Maybe I could offer up an
Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
You ready? Let's go.
87 Sports Fans live. Keith Grieve and Steve Taylor from 87sportsfans.com. Convinced Jim Sarantias from thefantasygreek.com to sneak around or stay around for the last 12 minutes of the program. We're going to do some random NFL discussion because at the end of the day, who doesn't love talking football? Reminder that you can catch all of our programs at latenightsportsradio.com. You can subscribe on iTunes, download the Spreaker app, and catch us Sunday through Thursday at latenightsportsradio.com at 10 p.m. Eastern Time is when all the fun starts, kids. Tomorrow night will be the Rochester Sports Mumblings for all the local Rochester, New York sports scene. Wednesday night, Jim's own show, thefantasygreek.com's NFL Power Hour, tees off at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And then on Thursday night, it's the Johnny Bobo Show, which has been decidedly more Johnny than Bobo lately. And, probably not a bad thing. Just kidding, Bob, if you're listening. It's just a joke. Don't be mad. All right, NFL headlines. So I'm just going to read down and just kind of bring up topics, and we can run with it. Miami Dolphins signed Ryan Tannehill to a 6-year, $96 million extension. Do you agree with the move? We'll start with Jim.
Wow, that's a serious commitment. I guess I would. I mean, I think Ryan Tannehill's the guy for that team. As we were talking about, you just can't pick quarterbacks off trees. And he's certainly not a player that's reduced himself to a backup quarterback in this league. He's a starter.
Steve?
I would have to agree. And, I mean, the only thing with Tannehill is he's had a little bit of the injury bug, but most quarterbacks have in this league. So I think he has the ability. And, I mean, who else is coming out in the draft anytime soon? And do the Dolphins really want to start fresh? So,
yeah, I don't think, and you're absolutely right, Steve. And it's not just, I mean, the Dolphins have to have a bad season to have a shot at a really good quarterback, and they're just not playing that bad. Some of the pieces are off. I like what they did with their draft.
Mm-hmm.
Is it enough? I don't know.
Yeah, with the Dolphins, again, it's the same problem that a lot of teams get. You get stuck in quicksand with your quarterback because Tannehill hasn't been great where you're like, oh my God, that you have to lock him up to a long-term deal. But he hasn't been bad enough where you're ready to cut bait. You know what I mean? And move on to something else. Because at the end of the day, you need some kind of plan if Ryan Tannehill's not in your long-term thing. And like you said, Jim, you can't pick quarterbacks off trees. So you have to make a choice sometimes between the devil you know and the devil you don't know. And the devil you know is always the better choice in that scenario. So does Tannehill still have room to grow and improve? Absolutely. Can they win with Ryan Tannehill? Yes, I say they will.
And do we know how much of that is guaranteed? I don't know anything about the contract.
Hold on 1 second. $45 million guaranteed.
Okay, so half of it. I mean, these days it's not a bad deal.
Right. I mean, think about it.
I mean, we could cure poverty in the United States probably with that money.
Jay Cutler
Cutler
and Colin Kaepernick signed $126 million contracts. Andy Dalton signed a $115 million contract. So if you look at it in that way, the Dolphins kind of fell in line with $96 million. But
how about that poor Russell Wilson?
Yeah, what is Seattle going to pay him? Because if you look at his passing stats, he's not that good of a passer. But what he does for that offense, he's the right quarterback for that offense.
Right.
Like you need him there because no other quarterback could run that offense like he does. But he's not that good of a passer, so it's more of like his value to that offense as a whole. It's going to be fun trying to watch Seattle come up with a contract that is justifiable.
I've always looked at him as kind of like the polar opposite of Cutler, just because we see him every year. Cutler has unbelievable talent, but he's probably one of the worst leaders at that position, to where Russell Wilson has, like you said, he's not the best passer in the world, but at a young age, he was able to take that team and have them just follow him unquestionably. Just a fantastic leader. And it's going to be interesting. But, I mean, you look at last year, he was one pass away from being a 2-time Super Bowl winning quarterback. And if they have any success this season, they definitely need to pay him just a boatload of money.
It's strange, part of the story has developed that they just owe so much to Richard Sherman, which is true. They owe him $12.2 million, and they can't really cut him because a lot of dead money would be floating out there. Marshawn Lynch, he's got an $8.5 million cap hit. Jimmy Graham, $8 million. Michael Bennett, $8 million. Cliff Averill, $8 million. Earl Thomas, $7.4. You start getting the picture. I mean, they've sort of got this structure in place, but you're looking at all these players, and I myself am saying, I might want to keep Russell Wilson and get rid of Richard Sherman. I don't know about you guys, but I kind of like Russell Wilson a little bit better.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, no, you can't deny what Wilson has done. You just.
I mean, I'm looking at their. I'm at overthecap.com. Russell Okung 7.28, Brandon Mebane 5.7, Cam Chancellor 5.65, KJ Wright 4.75, Doug Baldwin 4.4, and I'm still haven't gotten to Russell Wilson's cap. Oh, here it is, 1.696868.
He's still on his rookie deal.
I know. How insane is this?
It's
This is also part of the thing with the collective bargaining agreement that totally just upsets me.
Why, though? Because I like the rookie wage scale, but personally, but go ahead.
No, it's something I think that they didn't. Hate saying it, the veterans fought themselves. They didn't fight for the rookies. So,
well, I mean, you've got two ends of the spectrum in the league right now. You've got Russell Wilson, who is at the getting crapped on end of the spectrum because he's producing more than he's getting paid.
Right, he's got no leverage, guys.
And then you've got Sam Bradford, who was the last of he wasn't part of that rookie wage scale. He was the last first-round pick to get paid boatloads of money, who didn't do a damn thing in the league. So,
okay.
So
your point is
you paid millions of dollars to one guy that never did anything, but then you got Russell Wilson, who has greatly outplayed his contract. So I think somewhere in the middle is the truth, and I think the rookie wage scale is a good thing to keep guys that end up not being worth a damn in this league from sucking up a bunch of the salary cap money.
See, I can see your argument, because for every Russell Wilson, there's
come on, Steve. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Well, we should do this for a different. We should break this up and say, okay, well, how many quarterbacks fit this? Thank God they didn't make the $43 million because this team would have gotten ripped off. I just don't buy that. Let's go through the rookie quarterbacks right now.
Wait.
Andrew Luck would have gotten hosed if he didn't get a raise, right?
Right.
Or is he still on his rookie deal?
He's still on his rookie deal.
All right, Robert Griffin III, and he shouldn't be, but Robert Griffin III, okay, you might be able to make the argument. Mm-hmm. First round draft pick. Who else?
I don't know. I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Because there's nobody. We're talking about 3, maybe 4 quarterbacks tops.
Hold on. First, I'm going to Google first round quarterbacks. We're doing this right now. Oh yeah, we're doing it.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
And like I said, I think most of this started with one of the most famous busts, which was Jamarcus Russell. He made just an insane amount of money, and literally, I mean, you said Sam Bradford did nothing. Sam Bradford has had a decent NFL career that's just had a lot of injuries.
Well, first off, go ahead. Sorry, Steve. I'm sorry.
No.
No, please. I just need to let you.
Well, I was just going to say that it's like I said, for every Russell Wilson, and I think Keith, once you get that list, and it's not just quarterbacks, it's all first round picks, in the top 10. For every Russell Wilson, you're going to have 4 or 5 guys that ended up being a bust and didn't deserve to get a contract that pays them like $50 million guaranteed, something crazy like that.
But see, I think where we're missing it here is I disagree. I think the reverse is true, that the people that made $40, $50 million, that they're the handful. There's a ton of guys that make teams that deserve getting paid money because they're starters or quality depth players. It's the reverse, that there's this handful that everybody wants to focus in on and say it's everybody else.
Okay,
Russell Wilson wasn't even a first-round draft pick.
Right, and that's another issue that he's probably
this rookie wage scale is killing him. He should be making a heck of more $1.8 million if he should be paid first-round money, which is what he arguably deserves.
Well, and let's be honest, he's making hand over fist millions of dollars in endorsements right now.
Right. Well, regardless. So let's go.
Doing commercials about Ebola? Come on.
Okay, so
you know damn well he's making.
Here's first round quarterbacks from 1999. Okay, you ready? Tim Couch, Donovan McNabb, Achilles Smith.
No. Let's go from collective bargaining agreement forward.
Oh,
if we're gonna compare apples to apples, just stick with the guys under the agreement right now.
Okay, so that started in 2011. Okay, so here we go: Cam Newton, Jake Locker, Blaine Gabbert, Christian Ponder, Andrew Luck, RG3, Ryan Tannehill, Brandon Whedon, EJ Manuel, Blake Bortles, Johnny Manziel, Teddy Bridgewater.
So it's probably 4 to 10.
I count
4 quality guys and then 6 busts.
Yeah,
or not busts, but guys that aren't living up to expectations.
Cam Newton, Andrew Luck. Those are the only 2.
RG3. He had a great rookie season.
Yeah, but he's been crap since in the 2 seasons since.
Well, no, he's been average or less than average, but not complete crap.
All right, so I'll compromise. So 3, Robert Griffin III.
Okay,
Tannehill's been average.
Blake Bortles, good, decent rookie season. 4,
69.5. He's a rookie. I'm not ready to write him off yet. I'm not ready to write Manziel off yet, even though I don't think he's going to be successful. But I'm not ready to write any of those guys last year off. So I guess, in thinking and talking this through, is that maybe it's too early to really put a verdict on this.
What I think should happen is teams should be forced to readjust the wage. If, let's say, now Russell Wilson, it's deemed that he should have been a first-round draft pick. He should now get first-round money.
Right.
And a team should be excused from counting that money against their cap for equity's sake for the player.
Well, and again, maybe it's better instead of 3-year deals to do 2-year deals or something like that. I make it shorter.
I mean, 2 years.
I find for the Seahawks to be sort of jerking around on this whole thing, that it takes a bit of gall because, I get it. They could stick him with a $1.78 million salary for the year and just say, screw you, Russell Wilson. We've got you for 1.7. Go talk to your union. That's not going to happen. I mean, they're going to have to work this out because otherwise he could just sit there and tank the season.
Right.
I mean, nobody would blame him for that. Certainly none of the fans would.
But
they say pay the man.
Now, to expound on my point, the reason that the NFL rookie wage scale was made important was because of those previous picks, going back to like the Tim Couch, Achilles Smith, Cade McNown. I won't count Chad Pennington because he actually had a decent career.
What's interesting is since then, since the collective bargaining agreement, it appears that teams aren't drafting the way they did than before the collective bargaining agreement, meaning you don't have people spending a ton of first-round draft picks on quarterbacks.
In 2011 and 2012, there was 4 first-round quarterbacks taken, which, as far as this list goes back to 1999. The only year with more than that was 99, when there was 5 taken in the first 12 picks.
Okay.
Wow, 5 in the first 12 picks?
Yep, Couch was first, McNabb was second, Achilles Smith to the Bengals, Culpepper to the Vikings, and Cade McNown to the Bears at 12.
Oh, my God. That's crazy.
Yeah, Cade McNown going that high? Yes, absolutely.
No, just 5 quarterbacks in the first 12 picks. That's
I just think I think based on what you've described, the collective bargaining agreement basically benefits the owners in 2 ways. 1, financially, and 2, it changes the incentive structure of how they draft. They don't sit there and say, hey, we need the moneymaker guy right now in the first round. They'll sit there and say, well, that moneymaker guy is not this quarterback. He's a decent quarterback, but we're going to wait on him.
It protects the owners from sinking tons of money in a bust.
Right, and that's not the player's fault. That's the owner's fault.
But is it good for the game if in a salary cap league, Is it good for the game in a league that's driven by a salary cap to be able to throw boatloads of cash at worthless players? There needs to be some kind of protection so that these players can prove themselves. If these players prove themselves, then they're entitled to all the cash they can get their hands on.
So if Russell Wilson doesn't make it to his second contract and he plays for $1.7 million just this year, and then he has a devastating injury that cuts off his career, that's fair to him?
I understand what you're saying, but he could always hold out for renegotiation.
Whose side are you on? Are you on the owner's side or the player's side? Because I'm on the player's side. I think that the players deserve every penny they have got coming to them. And if I were the union, I would have pushed the NFL to show us how much money they're making every year because we have a right to know.
I think this system is better for the game in general. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, Jim.
See, I agree with
There's
you
only
said
32 owners. There's only 32 owners and millions of fans.
Well, if, like I said, because you have so much money available to spend in a salary cap, okay?
Well, they can control the cap. They can do whatever they want with it.
Yeah, but the cap...
We're talking about the owners still.
Right.
We don't make the cap.
No, the cap is determined by, was it 51 or 49% of the league revenue from the year before or something like
under
that?
a formula that the owners themselves have agreed to.
Right. And
to play under.
Right. So,
Okay.
but there's only so much cash that you can spend.
Here, let's get back to the story here, which is Seahawks messing around with Russell Wilson. He's making $1.8 million. He deserves to be at a rate like the other quarterbacks, and he has a better case. If it's not the statistics, it's certainly the pedigree.
Right. No, and if you're Seattle, I understand from a financial standpoint why you're not going to just openly renegotiate with him, but from the same point as you got to be thinking extension at this point.
I agree.
There's got to be some kind of negotiation going on behind the scenes. We probably will never know, but
no, I think we know as much as everybody else knows, which is it sounds like not much has happened. That they're just waiting, and they're going to wait for Russell Wilson to make a move. It's either he's not going to show up to camp or he's going to have to do something to sort of make them go, yeah, we better go do something about this right now. Because it took Marshawn Lynch to do that, to get them to move. They didn't even, in his situation, I thought they were being kind, given his age, given a number of factors. But here you have a player who's got another 10 years ahead of him, and he is just at the beginning of his performance curve. He's not even in the middle of it yet.
Right.
So what are you waiting around for? He's more valuable than Richard Sherman.
Yeah.
Probably Marshawn Lynch, Jimmy Graham, Michael Bennett, Cliff Averill, Earl Thomas, any one of these players ahead of him. Individually, he is better than any one of those guys.
And this is Russell Wilson's third season, so he's a free agent after this year. So you can throw the franchise tag on him and drag this out. I think that's the system, obviously, but I can't imagine.
That the owners created.
Right. But the players agreed to.
I do not disagree with that. I thought it was a bad deal that they made.
Yeah. So, all right. Wow. Nice spirited football talk. I like this.
Oh, it's titillating.
Well, I
just wanted to say titillating.
I never turn. Yeah, right. I never turn away from a debate. 49ers Justin Smith announces his retirement. Is anybody shocked by that? He's pretty long on the tooth there.
Yeah, whatever. I mean,
just another 49er.
This has been going on so long. It's just like, oh, finally it's over.
It's another 49er retirement, though.
Yeah, they still have a football team?
In name only. The Niners were 8-8. What do we think they are? Like better, worse, or even this year?
I'm gonna say worse, but not much. Because it's not as much the loss of players as much. I mean, just the coaching staff that they lost. It's tough to replace that. I mean, we benefited in Chicago.
Yeah, I think what you meant, Steve, is compared to what everybody's outlook was when the season finished.
Yeah.
And all the changes happened, and then suddenly the offseason begins, and we've got players retiring. Maybe they won't be as bad off as everybody thought initially, but it's really hard to view them as a better team.
Yeah.
But I'm excited for, Carlos Hyde. I think, he gets a great opportunity. Torrey Smith gets a great opportunity.
Yeah, and is Anquan Bolden still back, right?
Yeah.
Still ticking.
Still taking
Why do
man.
I
Did you know I was working on wide receiver rankings, and Steve Smith, 38 years old.
Is
He's
he
still a
really?
beast.
Yeah, he's your age, Keith.
He's younger than me, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm 39. Thanks
Not
for
by much.
I'm 39. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, I'm 38 still.
Not for
Oh,
much
there you
longer.
go, Steve.
Not
He's
for
your
much,
age.
Not for much longer.
Yeah, a month. I'll take it for a month.
It's. I think you look at the 49ers, and they hired somebody no one's ever heard of before to be their head coach, which isn't necessarily a knock. He could be a surprise. You look at Mangini running the defense. I really think that this might be a 6th-win team next year. I mean, if not worse. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what happens with Kaepernick. I've never been a big fan of his, but with all the shakeup, it's interesting to see how he's going to progress.
My gut is that if you don't think Kaepernick was being coached up by Harbaugh, you're kidding yourself. That's my gut reaction. I don't know.
You got a big gut, so it's a good reaction.
Yeah. And now with the offensive coordinator, Jeep Christ, who I don't know much about, but
Is that his name?
Jeep, Geep, Christ, Chryst. It sounds like something I say, I yell when I'm frustrated. Jeep
I wonder if
Christ.
his parents drove a Chrysler.
Yeah. So, okay, one more. Let me find one more good. Oh, Steve and I already kind of went on about Deflategate, but
I don't want to
talk about Deflategate. But when Goodell makes comments like the integrity of the game, should he just shut his mouth at this point?
Yes.
You guys
Dan
were having
Levitard
a hate fest earlier against the NFL.
Yeah, it's just
Dan Levitard had a great article today about how, just what you were saying, Keith, about how he's talking about the integrity of the game with everything that's happened in the NFL. The one thing that he should not be talking about is integrity. They've had so many issues and so many skeletons in the closet that Goodell is quickly going down as one of the worst professional sport commissioners ever, when it didn't look that way.
But wait a minute. But don't you think there's something to be said about Tom Brady's behavior and all this, which is where I think you guys are coming from, which is they should have never gotten to that?
right.
But once again, how do we know? We don't know all the facts with Tom. And I'm not a Tom Brady apologist.
Steve, the NFL issued a full statement on this. They issued portions of the letters that were sent to the Patriots and to Tom Brady. They spelled out the evidence that was in place against him. They found inconsistencies from his statements to the statements of the ball technicians, basically intimating that Tom Brady was lying.
Well,
so the
again,
guy lies. He lies.
But there's proven there's inconsistencies in everything that they've found so far. I think before anyone jumps on anybody, we got to wait till this whole thing plays out because it's far from over.
It's silly.
But what else is there to play out, though? There's nothing to play out. The evidence is out there.
Absolutely.
This is really all about, is it 4-game suspension or 2-game suspension?
Yeah.
But once again, the evidence isn't all out there, I don't think.
It
I think
is.
because you look at that $5 million report the NFL had, they've already poked 1 million holes in the thing. So it's proof that they've spent a lot of money.
Send me to the website. Tell me who the person that has poked 1 million holes in whatever it is that you're saying that they did. Because I'm pulling
Just
up the statement.
Well, what I'm saying is what the Patriots have put out the last couple days in press releases and what the owner has said.
But Steve, you're saying you're acting as if the Patriots never had an opportunity. They had every opportunity. They were given opportunities to present their own evidence, their own things, and they didn't when they were asked to. They're now just doing it.
Yeah, and
they're doing it to. Well, here's the and somebody had said this the other day too. I can't remember who it was. It was an ESPN anchor. What right in any other business? If your owner of your company comes to you and says, "Let me have your personal cell phone. I want to look at it," without any proof, any warrant, anything, especially if you're somebody that's as high up in the world as Tom Brady with a wife like Giselle, anything that was on that phone, no, seriously, and this is dead serious. Anything that was on that phone could end up on TMZ tomorrow. I agree with that 100%. You can't trust that somebody that's a tech in taking the information off is only going to look at text for Deflategate.
Well, wait a minute, but Steve, that could happen in any forum under any circumstances. But when you subject yourself to the rules of a league, including the discipline, you have to follow it. He chose not to. That was within his right, and now it's come back to smack him around.
Yeah,
that's the NFL's right too.
Yeah,
what I'm saying is now I think it's going to continue to play out, and it's not over by a long shot. So that's why I don't like making. I hate everyone jumping on Brady, and I only jump on the NFL a little bit just because of what's happened in the past year. For them to say integrity, that's the only thing I really laugh at, because I don't think.
I'll read that portion of the letter, which is from Troy Vincent, the vice president of NFL, to Tom Brady. With respect to your particular involvement, the report established that there is a substantial and credible evidence to conclude you were at least generally aware of the actions of the Patriots employees involved in the deflation of the footballs, and that it was unlikely that their actions were done without your knowledge. Moreover, the report documents your failure to cooperate fully and candidly with the investigation, including by refusing to produce any relevant electronic data or evidence, emails, texts, etc., despite being offered extraordinary safeguards by the investigators to protect unrelated personal information, and by providing testimony that the report concludes was not plausible and contradicted by other evidence. And I want to emphasize, was not plausible and contradicted by other evidence, because that means there's evidence you were lying.
And text messages, you could give them copies from your cell phone provider without having to give them your phone. I mean, it's possible. This was subterfuge by Brady, and he brought it on himself. It just is.
Exactly.
But
exactly. Like I said, I'm not standing up for Brady right now. I just want this. I don't want to jump on anyone until this is completely done, and it's far from done.
But Steve, it's completely done. They're just appealing.
It is not completely done.
They're just appealing the punishment.
Okay,
what else is there to offer? What else could there possibly be to offer this topic?
If this season starts and Tom Brady's suspended and everything is completed, I will admit that I was wrong. But I am telling you, I will bet.
What?
I don't have any money, so I can't say money. I will bet whatever that this is far from over. And I'm telling you, I just have a feeling it is not even close and remotely done. I think the NFL, they did a half-assed job on a $5 million report. I don't trust the NFL. I really don't trust Troy Vincent.
Why do you say it was a half-assed job? I mean, they interviewed people. They clearly obtained documents and things by people saying you have permission to get my texts or here. The Patriots gave them stuff.
There's allegations.
Patriots aren't saying we didn't give you anything.
There's allegations that
it's a half-assed job, because when you pay $5 million and you take 5 months, it should be a definitive.
I don't know what they're charging there in New York, but that's way too much money. Yeah. That's just inflated money.
Yeah.
But Keith, what were you going to say?
There's allegations that Wells was ignoring certain evidence and including other evidence to kind of slant the argument that he didn't include all of the evidence in his report.
And I've heard that when they say that they didn't get interviews with Brady, I guess they've interviewed him like 4 or 5 times, and then they asked him for other interviews, and that's when they were like, all right, that's enough. So it's not like
I've ever heard the 4 or 5 times interviews. I've never heard that. He was asked to come back one time and refused. That's what I've heard. And 4 or 5 times.
I've heard, and now once again, I'm hearing it from his agent when he was on the Dan Patrick Show a week ago. I heard that from him. Said they talked to the report 4 times. They asked him to come back, and he said, "No, listen, I've talked to you a bunch of times. That's enough." So once again, that's what I mean. There's all kinds of information out there. It's so cockneyed that I want it to be completely done.
No, but what I've just told you, if supported by fact, is not enough. What else do you need to hear? I mean, really, what else do you need to hear? What else do you need to hear?
That's what I'm saying. I need to hear it as a final, this is how it is. Because the facts have been in question by the Patriots in the last couple days. So to me, I want to hear what they're...
I just want to hear what facts specifically. Are they saying Tom didn't know about the balls being deflated? Are they saying nobody in our organization deflated? Because they actually suspended these guys. and I think possibly fire him.
Why they said they suspended? They didn't say they suspended him for the footballs. They said they suspended them because they found in this report evidence that they were stealing sneakers to give to fans.
My understanding is this was done before any report came out, before anything happened. They knew we better do something about this.
Yeah, this is a murky situation, and to get back to my original,
It's not murky.
No, listen,
God.
no, it is because look, you got the Patriots. You've got the Patriots suspending these guys, and they won't say why. It's not very clear that it was because of this. The bottom line should have been all along.
You get access to the same media statements I do. Have you read the media statement?
No, because I opened up the Wells report. I saw it was like 150,000 pages, and I didn't read it. Because my stance has been all along, it never should have gotten to this point. The bottom line should have been, were the balls deflated? Yes. Patriots get fined, lose a draft pick, whatever you want to do. End of story. It should never have been needed to be investigated. The refs that took the pressure of the ball, that should have been enough. End of story. It doesn't matter who did what. The Patriots are responsible for what happens to their equipment during game time, and that is the end of it. Or should have been the end of it.
Steve, you should see Keith right now. He's getting all red.
I'm all animated.
I can imagine. I can hear
We're
right now.
No, Keith, I don't disagree with you. I thought this was a lot to do about not a lot to do about nothing, but they did spend an inordinate amount of time investigating. I mean, spending $5 million, guys. I was available for a fifth of that price. So we could have come to the same damn conclusions. So next time, Roger Goodell, if you really need some investigating and you want it done inexpensively, notice the word I used. Contact me at thefantasygreek.com. And
look at YouTube. Did you ever see that Jimmy Kimmel where he had Matt Damon, John Krasinski, Ben Affleck all saying they were the ones that deflated the footballs? It was one of the funniest skits I've ever seen.
That's fantastic. We are out of time. We are well over time, by the way. Bonus 87 right there, folks. For Jim Sarantias from thefantasygreek.com and Steve Taylor from 87sportsfans.com. I am Keith Grieve. We are off next week for Memorial Day. We'll see you all in 2 weeks. Catch the rest of our shows all week long.
Post-game show is brought to you by Christ, I can't find it. The hell with it.